Radio is the only passport you'll need. Join us for Travel with Rick Steves, Saturday afternoons at 1 on KSJE.
KSJE is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center. The most important ingredients to sustaining health and wellness are the resources and tools that help you live a vibrant and healthy life. At San Juan Regional Medical Center, the goal is to promote health by making sure those resources are available. Find the path to the best life at lifebetterhere.com. San Juan Regional Medical Center. Better is our mission, improving lives through personalized health and care.
"11 minutes past 8 o'clock. It is Thursday morning, the 16th day of February 2023. Good morning, everybody. I'm Scott Michlin. Thanks for tuning in to KSJE 90.9 FM over the air, of course, here in San Juan County in Durango, Colorado. You're listening to us, of course, at 103.3 FM. And everywhere else on the planet, you are tuning into our website probably at ksje.com. Welcome also to our viewers who are watching this visual radio program. The video is streaming out live to the KSJE Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and our Twitter account. So we're glad that you are with us this morning, because coming up in the next few moments, we're going to get an update from members of Team Guardian. They have, of course, completed their 3,000-mile row across the Atlantic Ocean. We have two of the team members with us this morning to tell us a little bit about that adventure and more. That's coming up here in the next few moments right here on KSJE, so stay tuned for that. Then, of course, later on this hour, I'll be checking in with Thomas Heuser of the San Juan Symphony. They have a concert coming up next weekend, both in Durango and Farmington. We'll get an update on that this morning at 8:50 a.m. on KSJE. Mick Hess will be here roving with the arts. This morning he's playing music from Strauss, and that'll take us to 9:30, and Native Art Voices of the Four Corners with Vanaya Yazi. You'll hear that on the radio as well, coming up later on this morning. Don't forget, you can also connect with us on our Instagram page in addition to Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. And if you're a podcast person, you can find KSJE Podcast wherever you're probably already listening to podcasts, places like iTunes and Spotify and Pandora and Google Podcasts. So just take a search and find KSJE and subscribe for free. Outside our studios here at San Juan College, it is 5 degrees under partly sunny skies this morning. We are expecting a mostly sunny day today with a high near 30 this afternoon. Tonight, clear and very cold once again with a low near 4. Partly sunny skies on Friday with a high of 36 tomorrow, 42 on Saturday. Partly sunny and 46 by Sunday, maybe 49 by Monday, and maybe another storm system rolling through the area next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So we'll have to see how that develops. So stay tuned for that. Let me introduce my guests and welcome them home from Team Guardian. They are here in the studio with me this morning. Members of Guardian Initiatives, of course. Jarrod Slindee and Mark Pfetzer are here. Jarrod and Mark, good morning. Welcome back.
Morning.
Good to have you here, both of you, and thank you for coming in. And so, it's great to see you here, of course, tanned and somewhat ready to go. And just tell us a little bit about, you've been home for maybe a little over a week or so, right? It hasn't been that long, has it? A couple weeks?
Yeah, about a couple weeks, week and a half.
Yeah, and so you didn't get a return trip to Antigua, I guess, and now you're stuck in the cold weather. That's how it is. But for folks who've been living under a rock for the last 4 years, you and a third member of the team were raising money and raising awareness for mental health of our first responders, and the whole idea was to put together this team and row a boat across the Atlantic Ocean, and 3,000 miles, and mission accomplished.
Done.
That's right. Done and done. You can check that off the list, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And so talk to me a little bit about that whole that whole experience. I mean, you did a lot of training, and I think you tried to prepare for everything you could prepare for. But Mark, any surprises? We heard, I think, from your wives a little bit about some of the things you guys had to deal with on the boat, and so talk to us a little bit about the things that maybe that you couldn't train for.
Yeah, so I do think it's kind of ironic. I mean, looking back, things I thought would be a challenge weren't necessarily a challenge, and things I didn't think were going to be a challenge ended up being more challenging to us. For instance, we spent so much time on our boat, going through our boat, learning all the equipment on the boat, and then to get out there, and within the first couple days, we had issues with our seat bearings. Now, this is bad because our seats roll back and forth, and that's
Right.
where we get our power for rowing. And to start having issues with seat bearings, like where bearings are actually going bad immediately, that was pretty scary to think, how are we going to row this boat? I mean, we had spare bearings, and we were able to come up with a plan. We did a little bit of maintenance on them, and then about every 3 or 4 days did maintenance on them, keeping them lubed up, which normally you wouldn't have to do, but we were able to keep it going. Didn't expect that, Our water maker system, I'd been through the water maker system with multiple people to learn it, and then get out there and find it was losing pressure somewhere. And again, we were able to come up with a workaround, and it wasn't an issue for us.
But that's really important. I mean, that would give you drinkable water, right? When you're in the middle of the ocean,
Correct.
That's your only source.
That's our only source, right?
So,
we're filtering seawater. So, luckily the issue was simply it was losing pressure, and we were able to bypass that. It took a little bit extra time to get it fired up every day. So things like that we weren't planning on. We thought we were squared away on that, and they ended up being a challenge for us.
And I suppose I'm sorry to interrupt, but I suppose that takes your focus away from the job at hand, which is the row, right? If you've got to deal with some of these other mechanical issues, right? You can't be in the seats rowing all the time.
Correct. And that actually, the water maker one, we at some point when we were trying to figure out what was going on, we had to take center compartment off of the boat, which ended up being a blessing to us, because if we take that center compartment out, you gotta stop rowing because it's under the row seats. We opened that up. There's about 8 inches of water in that compartment. Which, one, you never want to see water in your boat.
No.
Two, we don't want to haul that extra weight if we don't have to. So we thought that was actually part of the issue with our water maker. It's where in that compartment's where the water gets pulled out of the ocean. It ended up being a separate issue that we were able to fix and prevent more water from getting down in there, where we had
Could have been pretty serious, I suppose, if you hadn't discovered it.
Correct. So
yeah.
It's kind of ended up being a blessing for us. And so things like that we didn't expect to be an issue, but were, and it just goes to show you out there, you've got to be prepared for anything. Other things I thought would be an issue. At some point I thought there would be some moment of fear, that set in, being on this tiny boat in the middle of the big ocean, 15,000 feet of water. And that never happened. As soon as I felt and this sounds funny, but as soon as I felt the stability of the boat, as much as the boat rocked back and forth, you could tell it wants to stay right side up, which is really good.
That's what you want in a boat. Yeah.
And as soon as it felt that, there was a confidence in that boat that we didn't get in training because we never experienced such big seas. So things I thought would be a challenge were less of a challenge. And again, things we didn't think of were definitely a challenge to us.
Right. Interesting. Jared, what about you? Anything that you had to deal with on the trip?
Yeah, early on, I thought that the 2 hours on, 1 hour off was going to be not sustainable. I mean, other teams had done it in the past. I just didn't think for me, physically, I would be able to sustain it that long. Turns out your body will adapt to anything. Your body's far more capable than what your mind's going to tell you. So that actually ended up really not being, it was difficult and it was exhausting, but not so much of a challenge that I thought. So, the biggest challenge for me, I think I've said it before, is I knew I was going to miss my family. I didn't think I was going to miss them as much as I did. So that was a struggle for me. But
because you have young kids,
right?
Yeah.
And so, and Jill was back here doing everything by herself, of course with the help of Robin, but that was probably the biggest challenge for me, aside from some physical stuff. But yeah.
Gotcha. And we heard a little bit about blisters and things like that. That just if you're going to row all the time, every day, that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's just expected that's going to happen.
Right. And the seat bearings, as you mentioned, and things along that line. Some of the other teams, I think, had other more serious issues. There was one team that had to get rescued, I think, from the ocean, and so they were dealing with those things. Did you hear about any of that when you were out there, or were you pretty much just focused on the task at hand and not really getting other updates from the other teams?
Yeah, we had heard that Fight or Die had capsized. I think it was maybe a day or two after. and that they were rescued and on their way to Canada on a cargo ship. And but yeah, so we heard about that. There wasn't a whole lot of information that was put out to really anybody, just because they didn't. They're an American team. They didn't want the other American teams to get, too worked up about it, and they just wanted us to be able to focus and row. And so, we ended up catching up with them later and hearing their story. But yeah, they went through a struggle, and they're all safe, which is great.
Right. Very true. We're all glad about that, for sure. And with technology, which is just amazing to me. I mean, we were able to talk to you guys from the middle of the ocean, or almost towards the end of your row. It sounds like you were able to at least make contact with your families on a fairly regular basis. Did that help you at all, or did it make you feel more homesick, maybe, and missing what the kids were up to?
No, it absolutely helped me, because before I left, I told Jill, I was like, I'm not sure how much I'll be able to call or will want to call, just want to be so focused. But I ended up calling at least after the first week and a half or so. I ended up calling about every day, and the conversations were pretty short, but yeah, that absolutely helped for me.
Right. And were the kids able to talk to you too sometimes, depending on what time you call?
Yeah. I'd call when it was 6 o'clock in the morning here, and so they're all getting ready for school and work. So, but yeah, I was able to touch base with them every day, and it was great for me. It gave me the motivation I needed. So. Right.
Very good. Mark, what about you? Were you able to keep in pretty regular contact with your family?
I was, and it was helpful for me as well. The a risk of thinking, yes, am I going to get more homesick, but really having that reassurance, from back home, especially during tough times. Tough times would come and go, and during those times, being able to call home and hear, for me, talking to Robin, and just that reassurance of it's all going to be all right, and you got the whole community behind you, and family behind you. So that was really, really helpful.
Nice. You guys were on the water for 51 days.
Yep, 51
I think. And you mentioned how the stability of the boat maybe helped with some of that being out on the open water. I just can't imagine being out there and just, looking at the horizon and just seeing nothing but water 360 degrees, right? And that's what you were seeing each and every day. No other boats, really, no other land masses. That was really all your days, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely no land masses. I mean, other than when we first left Canary Islands, it was probably 3 or 4 days of rowing before you cannot see the island anymore, which that's kind of a mental thing as well. I mean, we rowed that long and still seeing where we left, and it's like, oh my gosh, we've got 3,000 miles to go. But these are big volcanoes coming out of the ocean, so large land masses. But after that, we saw no other land masses. You see some other rowboats the very first day. There was one time, I don't remember how many days in, probably about a third of the way, we saw another rowboat about a half mile to a mile from us. We talked to them on the radio. And then we did see other ships, large ships. Sometimes we'd see, it was nighttime, you may only see some lights, or daytime, you'd actually see them. And we would talk to them, get on the radio and talk to them, and
just make sure they knew you were there, and because they're a bit bigger than you guys are.
Correct. I mean, I guess about a dozen times we saw their ships, whether or we're close based on what our radar's telling us that we were close. And the crazy thing, I still think this is just crazy. About half of those are our computer system, if you will, our radar's telling us we're on a collision course. Oh. It's like we're in this giant ocean, there's no other boats for hundreds of miles, and yet we're on a collision course with this boat. So you get on the radio, and all the boats are really good. And these large, I mean, you're talking 1,000-foot long cargo ships, and they get on to say, yeah, we see you, and we'll keep you on our port side, our left side, our starboard side, and so that was really neat.
Right. Very interesting. And that was also something that you were dealing with, too, was your beacon or whatever it is that tells other ships where you're located was not working as well as maybe you'd like it to be. Is that a correct description of the problem?
Mm-hmm. So we have a system called AIS, Automatic Identification System or Information System, and it's what tells other boats who we are and where we are, and vice versa. We receive signal from other boats. It's a safety system, large boats out on the ocean have, and any boat out in the middle of the ocean should have. And we started, not early on, but maybe again about a third of the way in, we started getting error warnings that we were losing connection. And so through troubleshooting, that we realized what it was a saltwater getting into our antenna connections. And we were able to, I think 2 or 3 times we had to get in there, turn the whole system off, undo those connections, clean them with fresh water, because the salt water acts as a conductor and just makes a mess of things. Again, something we weren't able to experience in training because we were never getting waves in training that would splash over the entire boat. And
that's what you got.
And that's
sometimes
what we got
on the ocean.
Regularly enough out there.
Wow, Jared.
Yeah, and so I think it's also important to note that while all these things we're having troubles in trying to fix them, I mean that's likely your hour off, your rest period. So you're trying to get this stuff fixed, and it's during your hour off, and you want to rest and all that. But so yeah, it takes more of a toll when you got things like that are failing.
Right, and then you have to row again. Further 2 hours
right.
after you fix the problem
Right.
or tried to fix the problem.
Right.
So that's how it goes. My guest this morning, we are talking with two members of Team Guardian, of course. They are back from their 3,000-mile row across the Atlantic Ocean. And we should mention, too, there's going to be a gathering tonight in Aztec that the community is invited to kind of celebrate your safe return and your goals of raising awareness for first responders. And this is the first time, I think, that you've been back that you're kind of able to visit with the community and maybe offer thanks, and they can thank you and offer you congratulations. So that'll be a good time.
4:30 tonight at Aztec County Commission Chambers.
Very good. And we have a poster, I know, to show that for everybody. So let me get to that right there because it's official. You're all smiling faces.
Pre-row. We were pre-row, very excited.
You're all smiling. Exactly. So wait a minute now. If you're smiling there, but what does that mean for the next row?
Oh,
Gentlemen.
Yeah, I don't know.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who has the better answer?
Yeah, for me, 2 out of 10, probably would not recommend.
Right.
It was a great time. We really enjoyed ourselves, but yeah, family is pretty important to us right now. I think there's things in the works, but
okay.
But
not an actual second row.
No,
maybe.
I think rowing is done. So yeah, I don't think we'll do that again. But there are things in the works that, with time, we'll get back to it. So
okay, all right, Mark.
Same
definitely.
Story? Yes, I would agree. I think the row for me, this was the one time done. I wouldn't trade having done it for anything. I'm very glad to have done it, and a lot of great lessons learned. And again, for our awareness campaign of raising awareness for first responder mental wellness, I think it was very effective. But the amount of time it took away from family was huge, and so I think it's a one and done for that. Maybe some smaller goals, doing something slightly different.
Okay.
Definitely not another ocean row.
You got it. You guys maybe rent a paddle boat at Farmington Lake this summer and see how
there
that
you go.
goes. Is
There
that
you
maybe
go.
what you're thinking of?
I could do that.
That would be all right, maybe. When it's hot enough, maybe not when it's 5 degrees, but I understand. Very good. Well, and let's talk about your families, because we talked to your wives. They came in, very gracious to come in and talk a little bit, and they were, I think, keeping the home fires burning and dealing with all this stuff when you guys were away. But I mean, without their support, I don't think either one of you could have done what you did and what you were able to do through all the training and actually being away from home. Mm-hmm. They should probably get a shout out, don't you think?
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a huge sacrifice for the whole family, right? I mean, just all for the past, like you mentioned earlier, 4 years. Jared and I have been gone on weekends or training trips, and just a lot of time spent away from family, but also for them to get behind us and not just allow us to do us, but support us and be there and help them with the cause as well has been great. So.
Right. Very good. Jared?
Yeah, I mean, that sacrifice, while maybe in the background, absolutely helped our cause and our mission for first responder mental health. So.
Right. Very true. And you're both, of course, representing the San Juan County Sheriff's Office this morning. You're wearing your shirts, and that's your full-time job. And so, I mean, they had to, I think the sheriff, gave you some time to do all of this and get the word out, and that's got to be a big help as well.
Yeah, great support from the agency, from the sheriff, from the county, and I think multiple times on the row, Jared mentioned that about how awesome organization we work for to let us do this and support us, because our coworkers had to pick up our duties while we were gone, and I'm sure they're gonna expect that back this summer.
Yeah, probably. Right. No vacation.
Now that we're out of vacation, they can take longer vacations. No, it has been amazing, the support from the county and the sheriff's office.
Right. Very good. That's good to know. Let me ask you. You were mentioning a bit about the row and being out there, of course, in the boat that was designed, not to capsize, right? It was a different design than the boat that did, I was told. And so, I think that's important. But some of the storms, I mean, how bad were they? You mentioned waves kind of crashing over the boat and things like that. And so, but I think, the time of the row was designed and the route so that you'd avoid some of the more serious storms, but it's still the Atlantic Ocean, so things still get pretty wild and woolly out there, don't they?
Yes. So early on, I think there was actually the race coordinators and race directors were looking early on whether we were going to be able to start on December 12th. There were some big storms in the Atlantic, two really massive storms. They stayed north of the Canary Islands, so we were able to start, but that put some rough weather early on. No storms we rode through early on, but that is when we had our bigger seas, our higher winds. And I remember at the time thinking, man, when even talking about it, when are we going to get some better weather here? And but then once that died down a little bit, then we realized that was our speed. So that was kind of nice.
Right. We were to push along.
We were riding some bigger waves and having that wind pushing us. After that, there were times when we would get into heavier winds. I wouldn't say a storm per se, not like you're thinking, these dark clouds coming in and, massive, storms and rain. We didn't really have that, but you would have times of wind that we couldn't necessarily row through. And, as far as waves crashing over the boat, we definitely had that through the whole row. I mean, even when it seemed like it was calmer, all of a sudden you just get this crazy wave hit you from the side and just swamp the whole boat. I mean, fill the whole boat deck with water. It's designed for that. We had large scupper holes on the side. The water would go out, but it would soak anything on deck. That happened frequently. It really like to happen about 10 minutes before you're supposed to get off the oars and go on your break. Right. So you could be totally wet for your break. And
it's probably Murphy's Law of the Sea, I suppose, right? Is how that would work. But the weather was somewhat. I mean, I think it was cold at some points, and it kind of got warm at some points during the trip as well, and that was maybe different from what you were expecting.
Yeah, we were told that it'd be super hot, and it was during the day, and but we were told at night you'd be able to row basically with no clothes on, just because it was so hot and a good time to let your body dry out. But that never really happened for us. So that was different than what we were expecting. I didn't think I was going to be wearing a heavy jacket and a beanie at night, and so it's funny, during the day you're like, gosh, I just want it to be night because it'll be cooler, and then at night you're like, gosh, I want the sun to come up because it'll be warmer. So, that we weren't expecting that, but we worked through that.
Sure. Right, you do what you got to do.
Right,
and I know there were some members though in the row that were maybe teams of 2, teams of 1 that were going on the same route, of course. And so the team of 3, did that seem to have a good mix? I don't know how a single person could do it with rowing and sleeping and stuff.
Yeah, we early on wanted to be a 4-man team. It only worked out that we were a trio, and I really liked being a trio. If we were to do it again, I think I'd prefer to do it as a trio, just because I felt like there was more room on the boat. And your off time, it was you were on your off time, not you and somebody else, and so you had more space to do what you needed to do. And so, I really enjoyed being as a trio. So, but I couldn't do it as a solo. There's solos still out there rowing. I couldn't do it.
Right.
Couldn't do it.
Interesting. Mark, what about you?
Yeah, I also enjoyed.
And we know neither one of you are planning to do this again. You made that very clear. Your wives have made that very clear.
I liked being the trio, like Jared said. I mean, we weren't battling for, on your time off. It was just you. One of the things with the 4s. And even pairs, they often do 2 hours off on their breaks. 2 hours rowing, 2 hours off. And for us, like Jared mentioned earlier, we were doing 2 hours on, 1 hour off. You really had to plan that hour. But outside of that, the trio was nice. There was teams, our boat's designed for anywhere from 3 people to 5 people. And there's a couple 5-person teams out there. And I just, 3 of us on there, was like, how do they do 5? There's just no room on that boat. So trio was good for us.
A good mix. Very good. Before we run out of time this morning, gentlemen, I want to ask you about the food situation. I'm always interested about the food. It's always about the food. But I know you had, and we show this picture about all the food that you had planned to take and did take with you. It was stowed on the boat. and had a little bit of some taste from home and some other things, but the food situation worked out pretty well.
Yeah, everything was good. For me early on, I had lost my appetite. I didn't eat a whole lot, and then I came around and was able to eat. But I didn't eat all my food. I was on a 4-meal plan with a snack pack, and I think we all only ate 2 meals a day with our snack packs. So food was good. There absolutely things that we missed from land, but everything was good with the food.
Right. Mark?
Yeah,
I
ate like a pig, and one thing we were really blessed. None of us got seasick.
Well, that is good.
None of us got seasick. Even early on, we thought all of us would, and none of us did. So, I planned 3 like dehydrated meals per day, and then a whole bag of snacks, and I ended up only doing 2 meals per day and a snacks. Part of that is just time. Again, that 1 hour off. That's half your break to cook your food, let it sit and hydrate, and then eat it. So I did 2 in the snack bags, but didn't have any problems with the food. Really enjoyed it. Like you said, we brought a little taste of home, some green chili with us. That was delicious. Wish I'd brought more of that. And,
right.
I was so hungry when these guys weren't eating their food. I was like, hey, give me your snacks. So I was taking their Oreos and fruit snacks.
You can't let it go to waste.
That's
you got to be, that's part of being a team player, I suppose, right? So there you go.
Right.
Let me ask you about your arrival in Antigua and the finish line. Were you able to see, you said you saw land for a few days when you were leaving the Canary Islands. Were you able to see land for a few days out when you were getting close to Antigua, or was the topography a little bit different?
Topography was different. We didn't see land until about 25 miles out. And, then we're within a day or so of getting in. So, and it's funny, everybody told us, you're going to smell land before you get there. We never smelled it. And that's a common thing. Sailors and rowers, you'll smell it before you get there. We're like, I don't know. We must have stunk too much to smell it. Overpowered that. But, we saw the glow of Antigua the night before. We could see the glow from the lights the night before, but then actually seeing land not till that day.
And what did that do for the guys, for the team? I mean, did that get your motivations going and rowing a little bit maybe harder, faster? I don't know.
Yeah, we wanted to be in a bit earlier than what we were, and so we were, for me at least, I was a bit down. But when you could see the glow, those last 2 days it was good because you knew you were going to be there. But you seeing the glow was really cool, and then seeing the land was really cool, and then just inching closer and closer and closer, and it was great.
Your arrival at night, it was about 11 o'clock New Mexico time, a little bit later, earlier in the morning, Antigua time. Mm-hmm. But here you are. Here's the picture on the dock on solid ground for the first time in 51 days. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was.
Because there's a lot of hoopla around your arrival. There's torches going, and there's drones flying around, and there's lights and everything, right?
You put on a heck of a show, and you got all these boats coming out to you and welcoming you to Antigua. You got the race organizers coming out with with pictures and spotlights, and you can hear our families up on the cliffs, screaming and yelling, and it was great. I think when we finished it, crossed that line, I kind of stopped and it's done. We're done. And a lot of emotions, and it was a great arrival.
Right. Mark?
Yeah, there was when we first come in, and of course it's been just the 3 of us, and like no lights at night.
Yeah.
For 51 days, and then to come in and have these. I remember the first boat that came out was, I guess, their Coast Guard boat, and it came out with its blue lights, police lights on, but they never said anything to us. I'm like, what do these guys want? Are we in the right area or what? And then all the other boats started coming out, and again, spotlights and photos and zooming around us. Lots of stuff to take in, but actually stepping out on land. And seeing our families, that was an amazing feeling after that long, and just accomplishing what we just had is surreal at that moment. So.
Right, I can't imagine, but it was great to see it and experience it kind of with you as the coverage was fairly live and right there that night that you came in. First meal that you had on dry land, what were you craving, or what did you want to have for your first meal?
We talked a lot about food and things that we wanted to eat. Mark mentioned toaster strudels very early on, so I had craved toaster strudels. I hadn't eaten those since I was 8.
Okay.
So when I got back to the U.S. in Farmington, I went to Smith's and got toaster strudels and ate those. But our first meal was provided by the race, and it was hamburgers, cheeseburgers, and French fries, and it was good. It was. Yeah, and then the week after our arrival, I think we all ate just a lot of food and all those things that you were craving. So we're back on diets now.
Right. So. Gotcha. Mark, what about for you? What was your meal of choice?
Breakfast. I love breakfasts, and our families the next morning did cook us a big breakfast that was delicious. I think we had pancakes and eggs and sausage, and so that was delicious. And of course, my love is ice cream, and so then I had to go on the hunt for ice cream in Antigua, and I've been on it since. So.
Gotcha. Very good. Well, you're home, and we're so excited that you guys made it back safe, and so thrilled to be able to celebrate later on today. Of course, the big celebration in Aztec at the County Commission chambers, I think, right, for the public. 4:30 p.m. this afternoon to celebrate your 3,000 miles and your mission accomplished for Team Guardian. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
Thank you.
Great to see you guys. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. My guest this morning right here, Team Guardian on KSJE.
KSJE and San Juan College present the Student Success Coaching Tip of the Week.
Welcome! We're back at Week 5, Coaching Tips of the Week. My name is Emin Chi with the Student Achievement Center. This week is asking for help. If you really don't understand a concept, ask questions. Stop by your professor's office during their office hours, or contact classmates and your professors via email or Canvas. You can go to the tutoring center. Some classes might even have a Facebook group to keep students engaged and to create an environment to ask questions outside of class. Either way, your professors will be on your side, non-judgmental, wanting to help you understand the class in its entirety.
The Student Success Coaching Tip of the Week, presented by KSJE and the Student Achievement Center at San Juan College. KSJE is supported by the University of Denver Graduate School of Social Work Four Corners program in Durango, accepting applications for the Advanced Standing MSW program beginning July 2023. Students with a bachelor's degree in social work are eligible for the one-year program. Stipends in child welfare, opioid workforce expansion, and Native American tuition support to eligible students are available. Find out more at du.edu/socialwork.
Why Black investors in particular are feeling the chill of the crypto winter. From American Public Media, this is